Hello, and welcome to SPS Unscripted, a podcast between two friends who have never met, living in opposite ends of the UK, connected by a rare neurological disease called stiff person syndrome. Our journey to soul sisterhood started via messages, supportive messages, which has now grown into a wonderful journey of empathy, encouragement, and learning to live the best version of ourselves. Join your hosts, L and M, for some cosy chit-chat. Pour yourself a drink, make yourself comfortable as we discuss all things life. Hello and welcome to SPS Unscripted Podcast. In today's podcast, we discuss the ever-changing day of living with SPS. It's true to say, as human beings, no 2 days are the same. However, with SPS, there can be little continuity, which impacts upon spontaneity, planning, and overall quality of life. So before we get into the nitty-gritty, we have Lindsay, as always, starting the podcast with a beautiful inspirational quote. So good morning, Lindsay. How are you?
Good morning, lovely. All is well.
Good.
So good morning, beautiful souls, fellow unscripters. Let's start this with a gentle quote. So, it's okay. Don't fret if you find yourself on a rocky path for a while. It's all part of your journey. It's with these challenging and sometimes painful steps you grow in strength, wisdom, compassion, and learn a deep gentleness towards oneself, falling in love with who you truly are, a beautiful soul. So that's today's quote by Lindsay Clark.
Beautiful. By Lindsay Clark, our one and only. And isn't that very fitting to, again, where we are today, another episode. Who would have thought? Continuity of 2 weeks in a row. Go us.
Yes,
because we haven't had that rhythm. We haven't had this rhythm, this ability to record weekly for some time. Such is the nature of living with SPS, really, isn't it? We plan, we have hope, we have all the best intentions. And Lindsay and I are meticulous in our planning. We like to try and make sure that all areas are covered. But with all the best wills in the world, that can all fall to pot and fall to the wayside with SPS in your life. And I'm just wondering, Lindsay, as we speak about this daily, where are you this week in relation to the ever-changing cycle of living with SPS?
Well, I've been reflecting on this quite a lot recently. And I know you and I, we've had some words over this too.
Nice words. We've not had words with each other.
Oh, not words. No, words over. Words over. This whole question, I suppose, of the unpredictability of SPS and how does one deal with that. So, I know I said to you, diagnosed, wasn't I, in 2011. So symptoms onset 2009. So where are we looking? Between 12 and 14 years of this constant up, down, up, down, up, down. How I explained to you the other day was like a tango. Sometimes I'm leading, sometimes SPS is leading, and it's about finding that harmony. So we're dancing together almost. So as I say to you, walking alongside this disease, not fighting it, not denying it, but walking alongside it, accepting it, being okay with not being okay. But this blooming unpredictability, trying to get my head around that after over a decade of living with this, it still blows my mind. So, when we were speaking, for instance, in last week's podcast, 1 minute I'm crawling on my hands and knees, then I'm in my doodle chair, electric wheelchair, then, I'm back on my legs, and don't get me wrong, I need that physical support. Trying to understand, why can I not stand independently? Why do I freeze to the spot? Oh, excuse my tummy rumbling if you can hear that. Why do I topple to one side or kind of crumple to the floor in a controlled fall? Why do these things happen? And why is it a case that sometimes I'm stronger than others? What is it that triggers this unpredictability of this disease? For instance, on the weekend, hubby and I, we went to the park to just be in nature. You know what I'm like. Nature is where I find my healing, my peace, my love, my light. So, I was watching and spending time with the little squirrels, all the different birds, our native birds, and they were all so close, as I say to you, having my Snow White moment. And it was beautiful. And yes, needing that support of my hubby, but I was there on my legs, not for long, but still doing so. Then we come back to the Doodlebug, the van, and all it took was the heat from the air vents in the car. That brushed against my hands, and an upper body spasm, there it goes. And I'm like, but why? What is the rationale in all of this? Why? Why did that happen? And then how my body feels afterwards, the repercussions of that, the strength that it takes out of me, the weakness that it brings, and not even just a physical weakness, what I call the ragdoll state, where my hubby needs to move my limbs for me. Just it's kind of like a reminder to the brain of, come on now, chip chop.
It's passive movement.
So you go through all those stages, and then even when everything starts working together as it should do and listening to your brain, it leaves you so wiped out that you can't even put it into words. And even speaking of putting things into words, the way the brain is working, it then affects the speech and the words and the way of thinking, and the foggy brain, and it's like somebody pulls the plug in the bottom of your foot and everything just drains out through the feet. And trying to get to grips with this constant changing and unpredictability, because another time the air from the heaters in the van wouldn't affect me. So why is that? Why does that happen? And it takes me off guard. And learning to live a life with that, and that unpredictability. The same with noise. The sound of day-to-day life. What triggered me the other day was my hubby's glasses case just closing, and that pop of that glasses case. Now he can close that glasses case 1,000 times, and I'm fine. But then you have those times where, for whatever reason, the SPS in the body triggers. Now, the more I've tried to look at this, the more I have noticed the connection with fatigue. And how I become more sensitive to stimuli and just life in general, the more fatigued I am. So that's a major part of it. But even with fatigue management, it doesn't hold this disease in its place.
It doesn't really, just listening and connecting, and also been rather reflective as well of things that I hadn't thought of for some time. The first thing obviously coming to mind is the spectrum of SPS, and how one can be working and continuing to maintain an almost daily functional life of being out there in the workplace and still be able to fulfill roles to a reasonable standard, a reasonable threshold of ability. But when it comes to this part of life where we both are, and even you and I are in a different place if we talk about spectrums, we're both placed probably in different parts of the scale within that spectrum, I think. And it's no wonder that people then start to become apprehensive with regards to going out, engaging in society, engaging in pursuits, etc. You know, we spoke of this in the podcast of finding the other way, and trying to keep yourself in this calm state. But as you say, if there is some stimuli out there that triggers the SPS, or indeed there can be nothing. Sometimes you're just there, you're okay, and then suddenly it's like, I need to get home. It doesn't beggar belief that why people become rather more enclosed within their own home and why they feel more safe within their own home as opposed to engaging. And then taking that a step further is allowing people to come into your home, friends come into your home, because there is this almost, it's not an unrealistic fear. It's a founded, I don't like to use the word fear. I'd say it's a foundational thought and rational thought of knowing when to push the boat out and live a little and enjoy someone's company and enjoy someone coming over. But knowing that that could set you back, and I'm not talking days, that could set you back into this spiral of being unable to move, looking to, really trying to draw that next breath. And in reality, who wants to keep revisiting that state, if that makes sense? So it's this balancing act that is incredibly difficult because there isn't really a balance. and I say that as coming from the background that I had when I once worked. When I think of this disease and I talk of when people say, oh, it's about balance, actually no, the scale should be tipped more towards self-care, because you always have to have more in your tank because of this disease, because this disease can make you go from a full tank to empty within the space of an hour, or
Yeah.
or you could have a few good days, and then there's a difficulty with that as well. I'm not meaning to put obstacles. I'm just looking at this realistically from my own experience of, you have a few good days, and if you don't catch yourself and say, don't push that wee bit, don't push that wee bit further, then you can push beyond the boundaries, and there you go with the adrenal cycle and the fatigue and everything.
This is why we're so mindful with the amount of time that we talk.
Oh, absolutely.
So that's, that's one thing. When we speak about consistency, it's very hit and miss whether we record on that day and how long we talk for. So to be able to commit to say, okay, every week we will do an hour podcast this time, this day, it's not a thing.
No.
It's not where I am. It's that consistency to a commitment to say, I can do that. I promise you I will be there and I will be able to do this.
Yeah.
And I have been grappling with not being able to commit and taking responsibility for my own commitments. And I know I've mentioned that to you this week. What is it with responsibility? Why is it that it is causing me much internal upset? And I think, when we break it all down and we peel off the layers, it is because day to day, nothing is predictable or guaranteed for me. I am not guaranteed a day where I'm able to do all the things, and I am not guaranteed a day where I'm confined to the bed. So it's very, very confusing for me. And in that confusion and in that uncertainty, it's causing a lot of unfriendly feelings within myself. I don't like it, and I'm trying to find ways to move through all that. For instance, just backtracking a little bit with you saying about us basically encouraging and pushing ourselves to keep on going and keep doing these things, despite the consequences, really, in a way, because that's what I do with myself. The doodle chair, for instance, this want for independence and to still be able to do things when, my hubby's not here. So taking the doodle chair out on my own, for instance. But it's become an impossible task because a spasm triggers because of a noise outside, or because of a change of temperature, or because somebody, responds to you maybe a little bit unkindly, because people can be a little tricky out in the wide world, if you're in their way, or you're not moving fast enough, or, it's not even feasible for me to be able to use the chair out and about on my own. And that is something that is really, really frustrating me because of the unpredictability. Because if my response to stimuli would just settle down, then maybe I would be able to just go and have some fresh air out and about safely. But safely is the key. How can I do that safely? And I just don't know how. And this again goes full circle, really, where last week we were talking about, crawling around the garden on hands and knees to be able to fulfill that task of wanting that woodland garden space. It's just popping bulbs into the ground, basically. But I have to keep myself low to the floor. So if anything triggers, there's not far to fall. And, if you do then stiffen the whole statue Tin Man situation with stiff persons, then what? So all these unpredictabilities, it's a lot, I think, for one brain to try and just keep processing all the time. And then we wonder, why are we in fear mode?
Lindsay, what is that overwhelm? Who knows? I don't even know, because there's no rhyme, reason, predictability of it, other than just keeping myself in this state, which sometimes, to the outside world, and I am very honest when I say I do, practice what I preach, in a sense of meditation and gentleness, and as you say, being in nature, trying to smile, all the things we've spoken about in this podcast, it's all true. It's all true, a 110% true of what I have practiced to get back from where I've been. But if I'm honest with you, some days I feel stifled by that rather than being able to breathe. Because if I don't catch myself, if I step out of that state, or if I'm, ready to step out and I have to bring myself back into it, and it's in a lovely state to be in. It's a calm state, and it's a much preferable state to be in. But it can feel so stifling because, you speak of, you just want to pop your, your running shoes on and go for a run. I just want to go out and just, I just want to be normal. And I say, I know what's normal, and people maybe listening that don't have SPS will say, well, what is normal? But normal to me, and we can't look back, and we have to accept this diseases in our life and how it presents. But it's the unpredictable nature, which then leads me to this, that there is no set medical route for this disease. What works for one does not necessarily work for another. And what may work for some stage may then start to lose its potency. So I know this all kind of sounds like, oh, come back, Em, you're down that rabbit hole. I don't mean that. I just want to be very raw and open with how, I try to keep laughing and smiling and being in this state of calm and mindfulness. But the reality is that these things are still taking place. It's just that I'm able to bring myself back quicker, and I'm able to enjoy life a little better than where my mind would want to drag me with it.
Yeah.
this unpredictability of, like I said to you, I could be walking in a shop and then suddenly it's like, oh, I need to sit down. And it gets to the stage where you might not even reach a chair. You need to sit down, so then you start to think, well, maybe I shouldn't go out to that shop. Maybe I shouldn't do that again. There is the option of wheelchairs and four-wheeled walkers, etc. But when you're in that state, Lindsay, I don't even think even the chair doesn't support you enough.
Yeah. Do you know what? You saying that on the weekend, can you remember I sent that photo of my walking boots, and to be graced and blessed with that freedom for, it must have been 45 minutes to have my feet in those walking boots. And yes, hubby was there and he was giving his physical support. We were completely in the quiet and in nature, nothing or no one to disturb us. And he said, okay, let go and walk to me. So even concentrating on his eyes, being surrounded in everything that was beautiful, still my legs froze to the spot. And the more I was trying to encourage them to move, the more my body was falling to the one side, and needing that quick catch from hubby, and trying to understand when he then supports me and my body is up against his, how my body all of a sudden becomes stable and able to move. What is the understanding in that? I have no idea, but I no longer hold on to that and question myself too harshly, because it sends me to a place of where I question myself to a point of, have I completely lost my mind?
Oh, yeah.
And that's a terrifying place to go. So I no longer do that. I refuse to.
Good for you.
And enough now. You can only beat yourself up for so long. So we continue to enjoy those 45 minutes together. But by the end of that, my little legs were dragging. I was all weak and wobbly. And even with that support, I was not safe to be on those legs. So it's a case of, okay, get back in the van. You need to rest. Now, there was shopping that needed picking up following that. And as you know, the doodle bug carries the doodle chair, and it's there for these reasons. But my body was at a point of, I cannot be sat up. I cannot be in a chair. I cannot take any more vibration. I certainly cannot take lights in a supermarket noise. I certainly cannot figure out this little gear stick on my chair to be able to direct myself. It comes off, and hubby can do that. But I just couldn't do it all. There was just no more. Enough now, enough. And I had to stay in the doodle bug and just recline back and just be.
Just breathe and
because
just be. Yeah.
There was just no other option for me then. And it's, I think, we go back to acceptance, being okay with not being okay in that present moment, and knowing that this too shall pass and life will move forward again. And another weekend, I may be able to do that little walk and pop into a shop. Who knows? But don't feed into that fear of, okay, this is it. This is it now, and this is it. Nothing will ever get any better again. I think not panicking, having these episodes that come into our daily life, this unpredictability, will help settle, calm that fear, and be okay with not being okay. Sometimes.
I would agree with you. And here's the, the other side of the coin is, as you know, I've started driving. So
I know, right?
I know. So what was keeping me from driving was actually the hypoglycemia. So in case anyone's listening, don't worry, I have spoken extensively with DVLA and neurology, and these episodes are, they're few and far between, and they are usually when I am in a state of just complete chronic fatigue or I'm coming out of. So I am very safe, just in case anyone is listening and thinking, oh, no, all is well. But actually at the weekend, this is the thing as well. Confidence is another thing that comes into this. With you say with fear, well, the opposite of fear is to be confident, isn't it? To have that confidence and not be afraid. And when someone says to me, oh, you're not driving, are you? Or you're not going out on your own. Well, I immediately have, I'm like, oh, I better not do that. Whereas, before that, I'm getting myself ready and I'm like, yeah, let's go for that walk. Of course, let's go, let's do this. So as soon as somebody shows their concerns, because they're so used to me the last couple of years not being in a state to do much, it then robs me of the confidence, the ability to go out there and do and be and live. So such as, with the driving of late, at the weekend, we take our dog to a run-free field so that he's off leash. Because he's overly friendly. He thinks all the other dogs want to be his friends, and obviously you have to respect other dogs and other dog walkers and keep him safe too. So hubby was working flat out, and I'm thinking, well, this boy needs his off-leash time and I need out. I need fresh air. It's freezing cold, ready to snow actually. And I thought, do you know what? I can drive. It's not that far. I'm just going to book that field for 30 minutes. My two sons came with me and popped the dog in the boot up and down the hills. And I thought, yeah, go me. I'm doing this. Happy me. And I felt great and it felt amazing. And I stopped myself even thinking like that. And I was just present of, oh, look at the sheep there. Oh, there's a black sheep. Oh, there's the farmer out bringing the sheep in. And it just became very normal. Now, did Moggins here not book the field that was away up at the top of the hill? It's beautiful, spectacular views. But I was like, okay, I've booked the wrong hill. So that was a bit of a hike. And again, the fear of, will I make it up there? Why wouldn't you make it up there? Come on. Of course you'll make it up there. It's not that far. And if need be, you can sit down. You'll be okay. And if need be, you're not far from home. So hubby can come in a taxi and drive you all home. So I had all this inner dialogue of, reassuring myself that all was well. And actually then the other part came in of, you're strong. And all of this is okay. Stop second guessing yourself and just enjoy this moment. And it was fantastic. It was absolutely fantastic. I did say to you that I missed, my sense of direction was off, and I missed the cut off and come right round the area that I live in. So it was a longer journey, and I did get a wee bit like, oh no, should I have done that? Because I'm so used to second guessing myself. And I was like, well, that's all right. You'll be okay. Come on, So it felt amazing, shamazing, as I said to you. And everyone was all full of fresh air, enjoying outdoors, getting steps in. The dog was well exercised, and it allowed for a very relaxing Saturday evening. And it felt great. And I thought, yes, I'm back on track. 2 days later, I'm on to you saying, Lindsay, I'm not doing too good. I'm not feeling too well, but it was more emotionally, wasn't it? It was more, I can't do this disease. I don't want this in my life. How do I find the basket for unwanted SPS? I need to give this back. It's that unpredictability. I can't get my words out today. So those are bigger things, aren't they, of going out to nature, going out for your weekend walk with your hubby, and me managing to do some things independently. But, even just the unpredictability in the house. How many times have I sent you pictures of the ironing board up this week?
And I haven't done so in years and
Yeah,
years
you're
and
just,
years, because I
yeah,
can't lift the darn thing,
I
and
know,
it's just
I know, sweetheart.
there's not enough strength.
It's a thankless task. You're missing nothing from it.
Missing nothing.
You're not missing out. But I remember I said to you there was 2 shirts left to go in that basket, and I could not have cared if the Pope of Rome was walking into my house that day. The ironing board stayed up, the ironing was switched off, and the 2 shirts, the shirts that were ironed were hanging, and the 2 shirts remained until 5 days later, and then there was another gazillion shirts in there. But it's that unpredictability of just push, and it's like, no, I can't. I simply cannot. I have to lie down. I feel incredibly unwell. I feel like someone's pulled the plug. I want to know who that person is. It's plug pulling. Whoever you are, I shall find you.
There's often a trade-off, isn't
Yeah.
there? We often say this. For instance, yesterday I ended up washing my hair, which meant I ended up eating 2 hot cross buns, not even toasted, because it was that trade-off between, having energy to prepare something to eat, which my preparing something to eat mind isn't what I would call what a normal person does in preparation to eat. As you know, my diet is very easy, isn't it? Very, very simple. I mean, it's either yogurt and fruit, or it's a medley mash that there's enough like for 3 days worth in the fridge, and it's just a case of warming it up. So there is always, when you speak about being in different places on the spectrum of SPS, I'm very mindful of that, of where I was 10 years ago to my journey through those 10 years to where I am now. So there is really, there's a beautiful improvement to where I am now compared to where I was 6 years ago pre-stem cell transplant. But yet my life is still very, very compromised in every which way. I mean, we were having a conversation, was it yesterday, about Blue, my Westie?
Yeah.
And the amount of time that I spend on my own, and having the comfort and friendship of a little fluffy 4-legged friend. Would that be feasible for where I am in my life? And we use that word normal, someone who who is normal. I don't like that word, but let's just, you know what I mean?
I know.
They don't need to think 1,000,000,001 things before they bring a cat or a dog into their life. They need to think, of being responsible, and can they afford to look after this little fluff ball, and insurances, and do they have the time to commit to walking, and all that, all that kind of thing. But seriously, where I am with SPS, it is like insanity.com, trying to figure out, can I do this, knowing that this little animal would serve me, but is it even possible with regards to its movements, with regards to the sounds that it makes, with regards to some days I have more energy to be able to care for another little being. Other times, what did I say to you about the goldfish? Do they provide, can you buy now these little blocks of food? Because what about the days that I can't even take care of a goldfish? I mean, this is not funny stuff. This is like very serious stuff that you try your best to work through, to bring that normalcy into your world and into your 4 walls. It's very, very real. And not just with regards to animals, with regard, when you were speaking about people, no one comes into this house, no one, bar obviously, our eldest daughter, because it's her home, and hubby and me, that no humans come into this house. And I wonder, because my body and the way it reacts to people and movements and noises and touches and all the things, just by visiting a friend, the impact that has on me. So to have a busy household, I mean, literally everyone, God bless them, in my little family has had to adapt to me. So they're very mindful of the amount of noise they make, of the way they move. It's crazy. It's not what you would call a normal family home. There's no people coming and going and rushing about and noises and singing and dancing and all the things, which is the life that I love. It really is not just my life that's had to be tailored. It's now theirs too.
Yeah.
So when you speak about the reaction people may have to you, for instance, with regards to you going out driving, they're the souls that have been sat back watching you struggle.
Yeah.
And that's why they react the way they react. And the same with my little family here. And it's a case of, Mum, are you okay? Are you okay to do that? And it's through love, and it's through experiences that they've had watching you. Really, really, suffer is not a nice word. It's a very negative word. But at the end of the day, that's what they see happening to you. You're suffering, and they want to do all they can to keep everything peaceful, calm, and gentle for you, because they know. I think they know and they understand how, shall we say, in inverted commas, regular, normal life affects your physical self.
Yeah. And I think then, it's this bizarre presentation of SPS where how can you go from lying on the couch to the next minute say, right, I'll drop you off at the gym. It makes no sense. And as you say, if you were to overthink that there's a fine line, as I said to you, between sanity and insanity, and overthinking and trying to think too deeply, can send man into insanity and become over anxious, and this rumination then begins to take place, and then you start to second guess yourself, and then you start to think, we've had this conversation, have I placed myself in this position? Am I keeping myself in this place? And we very well know that we're not, that this is an active disease. And the other thing, with regards to your four-legged friend, and we've spoken about this a lot, and I'm very encouraging for you to have this little companion, because as a friend, I want someone there with you to give you great comfort. But when I listen to you, Lindsay, I have to be very honest with regards to Monty. I couldn't have Monty unless I had the family around me. But there's another element there, is when I feel someone has pulled the plug and I am going down, it's Mayday, Mayday, and that beautiful animal is trying to come over almost to give me a paw and say, look, everything's going to be okay. There are days where I have to say, darling, just you need to let me be, and I have to close the door. And he looks confused, as if like, oh, what have I done?
So it's really hard, isn't it? Because so many people out there that will be listening will be saying, but my dog, my cat, like they are my reason for getting up in the morning. They are my comfort. They are my everything. They're the ones that sit with me and get me through a tough day. But when this disease does, and that's where I go with it, to a point of, please, no one move, no one speak. I mean, literally, we have had, hubby and I, weekends in silence, because I can't take, and that's just from a human point of view. How do you explain to an animal, please stay still? Please don't move.
It's just the overwhelm of, don't expect, in my mind, it's please don't expect any more from me. I have nothing left to give at this moment. And for me, it's not so much about, I need the silence throughout the day, with, the chronic fatigue, etc. But it's more if normal life comes in and someone's had a problem that day, it hits me hard. And I'm like, I don't know if I can cope with this. I don't know. And I have to bring myself into that center of calm and think, breathe, all is well. Just, be that gentle silence, be that gentle presence, be that calm presence. Because
if I'm not in a good state physically, then obviously the mental, the psychological impacts are there. And if someone is having a bit of a, they're needing advice, or they've had a bad day, as is normal life, my body and mind can actually respond in a very negative way, and I try to mask that, as you know, and I try to sit there and just be this, look as if everything is well, but really inside I'm like, I need to go, I can't be here, I don't feel well enough for this, please don't ask me anything.
Emotional stimuli, that's a huge one for me.
It's massive.
In the beginning, what my trigger was chronic fatigue, and that's what would send me to into the spiral of SPS. But through my SPS journey, that emotional stimuli became, I think, up there with the top 4 of number one triggers. And unfortunately, that's something that has stayed with me. And this is why I literally go through my day-to-day life of everything is love, light, peace, joy. And I do everything to stay in that state, because anything other than that, it doesn't serve me. And it's not how I would have dealt from an emotional viewpoint back in the day before SPS, when I was flying by the seat of my pants. Now, if I've say, my daughter's having a little bit of an issue with direction of her career, for etc., I take that into my heart and I feel it a millionfold, and want to fix it and make it right, and just bring her all the wonderful things right here, right now. And I don't mean from the place of being a mum. I mean that it's like I can feel her pain and her upset or her frustration or her, and it's like, oh no. And I can feel then in my body, it starts to tighten and my muscles start to respond. And then, and it's like this knock-on effect. And this is something that's normal. This is not something out of the ordinary. People go through career changes, etc., etc. But picking up on that vibrational energy and just, it's so overwhelming.
It is.
I forgot Mother's Day on Sunday. It's coming up, is it not? And I was on the phone to my hubby and I was like, no, I haven't sorted out Easter yet. Who knew Mother's Day was first? How do I do this? And he was like, my love, just be still a moment. Just be still. Because I was so concerned about getting a nice gift for my nan and my mum, because I love them so much. And it's when you don't get to spend time with them, you still want them to know that you love them and you adore them and you want it all to be right. But that overwhelm of, I forgot, now what do I do? Because I feel like I have too much to do. Really, like, I know. Really, come back, Lindsay Lou, come back.
And this is where you could then drive yourself crazy, because you're then like, what on earth is wrong? Why can't I just pick a card, think I'll just do flowers and that's it? I've gave much thought, or I've thought about it. There's this, I don't know what's going on. And we speak of this SPS mind and this SPS brain and what the heck's going on in there. And that's probably a topic for another day, because it's massive in its entirety. Who knows? And with you're saying with your daughter, the same's going on here, and as you say, I start to feel it all within my body. And for me, that can result in about 3 or 4 hours of trying to settle down into sleep. We spoke of this in our sleep routine, and how I really need to be careful, and it can take several hours. And if someone comes into the room, which is normal life, then I'm almost back to square one of trying to settle down for the evening, you know. So again, there's this going back to this unpredictability, that this just not knowing where the land lies as such. And I wondered if this podcast would help carers, people that are newly diagnosed, or that they're now travelling a little further along in their journey of SPS. So things have changed, because I've certainly changed a lot over the last few years.
I've certainly changed.
Yeah.
1,000% over the last 3 years, I would say.
Yeah. I could do school runs. I was the one that was the face at school. I was the one that did A, B, or C.
Hang on. I'm agreeing with that with regards to my way of thinking. Sorry, sweetheart. Are you talking about in a physical sense? And
Probably both. Probably
right, okay.
both. So the physical is, just being where I was, and now, not being to be able to do that, like not be dependable, not being able to be able to be depended upon. So I can never say, yeah, I will be there next Tuesday. I will be there next Tuesday at 12 o'clock. I had an appointment yesterday. Up until an hour before, I'm still thinking, I don't know. I messaged you and I said, I'm still in my PJs. And you're like, oh, but is it a virtual? I'm like, no, it's physical. It's in person. And you're like, oh, you better run. And I'm like, oh, Lindsay's having a laugh there, run. And I was like, yeah, I'm trying. And the way, so sorry, I digress. Talking about where I am in a psychological heart space, much calmer, yes, much more accepting, able to bring myself back from sometimes the sting and the reality of the disease, I think it is perhaps how I would perhaps describe it today. So it's there, it's ugly, it's terrible manifestations, it's hard, it's crawling on your hands and knees some days. It's not been able to find the compass of where's north, where are you, what am I supposed to do, what somebody even saying to me, have you salt and peppered the dinner? I'm like, you've just distracted me there. I was just chopping the peppers. I was doing all right there. So this methodical, way, this just gentle movement as I speak to you of, serves me well. It allows my body into this calm state of all is well, just go with the flow. And just so psychologically and emotionally, yes, I've changed 1,000%. And now I'm forgetting what I was going to say there because of the workmen outside drilling away. It's not been able to be depended upon. That's a hard one to adapt to. And it is hard because it's hard from a healthcare perspective. I pop something up on Instagram and on Facebook, I think. It's like, my memory doesn't serve me today, of hospital appointment anxiety, because you're sitting there and your heart's thumping because you just feel as though people just are not going to get this. And they've perhaps had a patient in before who's got a different label, a different diagnosis. They're working, they're running, and they're doing all these things. And as you walk through the door, for me, Lindsay, I don't look much different from them. Okay. Because I wasn't using my stick yesterday. It was folded up in my bag. So you're wondering, how are you going to be perceived, received, heard? And it really starts the apprehension begins long before the appointment. Because you're thinking, oh, I'm really scared. Maybe I should just cancel that, because is it going to serve me being in this state? But then the reality is as well as, well, what's going to be different next time? So you need to try and just move forward with this. And then we bring in, I bring in all the tools of the nasal breathing and the body scan, and speaking to myself and saying, you're safe, and everything that you're experiencing is real. It is real. And it's not always about educating others. It's about educating yourself, about saying you're okay. Well, you will be okay with this. But that unpredictability of, even an hour before, and being dependent upon my husband to drive because it was a longer distance. I'm not there yet, and I don't know if I ever will be. Let's hope I will be. So he's kind of on alert, not knowing, are we going, are we not going? And then that comes through that with this unpredictable nature of SPS is the fear of the number of did not attend, and then it gives you this kind of crazy lunatic patient appearance of, oh, she doesn't really attend, does she? So there's so much going on there that's starting to go into a kind of knitted ball that's not really probably making much sense to anyone listening. But it is part of the...
It's making sense to me.
Is it?
Good.
That's good.
I mean, I've had, many years experience, with the medical model. And, these worries that come into one's mind, they're valid because of past experiences.
Absolutely.
Of not being understood, or of not being, or of being judged, I should say. There are the most wonderful people that I have come across in my journey with SPS from a medical standpoint.
Oh, me too.
But in the beginning, when they couldn't figure out what was going on, nightmare, absolute nightmare. And that has stayed with me. When you turn to people who are qualified to help you and to say, okay, this is what you have, this is how we're going to deal with it, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. But before you get to that point, when medical professionals are questioning, is it postnatal depression? Is it, chronic fatigue that will just dissipate within 12 months? Is it just you just not coping with life? When you're questioned and, those attitudes and mindsets, they stay with you. And it's quite sad, really, because I think many people with SPS has encountered that at some point, because it takes so long for some people. What they say, it's about 7 years, isn't it, on average?
7 years diagnostic odyssey, they say. Yeah.
I mean, for me, it was within 2 years, but
mine's longer.
I think because of my presentation, because I fitted the box but also overspilled the box, that's where questions then come in. And then that's when I question myself, because, if the word functional is being used, it really makes you start doubting yourself. And it's so hard, because when you're doing everything that you can to live a full, beautiful, incredible life, because you don't want to be in this state. You don't want to be in this life of unpredictability. You don't want this. You didn't ask for it. Like you said, where's the basket for, to hand over? Lost and found. Here we go. SPS. You hop on in there. No one asks for this. And no matter what the reason is as to why SPS came into your life, it is valid and it is real, and that's it, full stop. And I am really, really miffed where I have allowed other people's perceptions of me to come into my heart and into my mind and to affect me.
Yeah.
And, there comes to a point of, no, this is real, no more questioning, but I'm not going to hang on to a diagnosis of a disease. What I am going to hang on to is living a beautiful, fulfilled life, which is what I set out to do before this walked into my life. And I will do everything I can to shape my life, this next chapter, into something beautiful, valuable, and productive, even with the unpredictability. And this is what you and I do now on a day-to-day basis. I think so.
I think so. I think what to add in there, though, Lindsay, is that we are in that space because we withdrew from a lot of our past life, which we do. We shed, we go on and we shed, and that's part of life for everyone. But as you say, the unpredictability of this disease used to scar me incredibly. I told you I was asked by someone in a professional capacity when not long after diagnosis, oh, is it that lazy man syndrome that you have? And it was
dear.
yeah, I can hear everyone going beep, beep, beep all over the world. Anyway, I'm not saying that in to cause any heightened emotion. What I'm trying to say is the reason why I had to withdraw into a world that served me was because there were days where I could go out there and have the silver shoes and the bag and the hair done and the makeup and be the best, go out there and go, ta-da, I'm going to sparkle, here I am, world, I'm coming to get you. 2 hours later, I'm crawling into a bit like Patsy and Eddie, from Absolutely Fabulous. I'm like crawling back in like, oh my gosh. And people must be thinking, was that a rough night? No, it was just a rough hour. I thought I was doing okay. But, so it looks so bizarre. So there you are, you're off in a stride and you're like, I'm going to take this world. The world is mine. You're just pushed back. And it looks bizarre to the onlooker. And as you say, not to dwell on it, but the psychological scars that are healing and as we come back to centre and use all these wonderful mediums that we use that really serve us well and are providing a much more beautiful, stable life, even when the beep hits the fan with SPS. It really made me just decide I'm not going to engage anymore because I cannot take the look of, well, you could do that yesterday, so how can you not do it today? Or, well, you walked in here looking great and you look really healthy, but suddenly now you're clinging on to your husband and you're hunched over, really bent over in the middle and holding on to furniture walking, and you get to the car and it's like, put the car seat back, please, please. And it's almost in this urgency for this poor person that's trying to assist you, but I need to get into that position now. Please help me. So as you rightfully say, this tailored life, which serves us, which allows us, I suppose, to deal with the unpredictable nature of SPS in a more manageable, calm, well, I use the word calm with inverted commas, Lindsay, manner. So that we're only having to deal with the unpredictability of how it impacts upon ourselves and the small unit that we trust, rather than then having to carry that heavy load of what does the world think of me. And I know we want to get out there and just shake that off and think, well, to hang with everyone else, I'm just going to do what I need to do. And I know there's a lot of people that with SPS that are still in that functional, and I use the word functional, I mean they have a high threshold of exercise tolerance and capability, and they're still managing to spin all the plates. And I say, go you and live it up, really grasp onto this life, and while you can and you continue to be, and please God that will be your experience of SPS, go out there and live and do all the things you can, have no fear in your heart to book the holidays, do A, B, or C. But when it comes to where I am, Lindsay, it has to be a tailored life. It has to be a place where I don't have anyone being able to cast judgment. It's a very enclosed circle, and I have I have a lovely wee circle of friends, but they're all WhatsApp friends. I have a really close friend who we live close to one another. They've got a house in the same area as myself, and they're doing renovations at the moment. So she sent me a picture saying, I'm in Costa. My heart broke, because I thought, I could have offered that coffee and a toasty to my friend. And I know if she's listening, she understands. She's amazing. But the thought of that sporadic moment of someone arriving at the door, my balance would have been completely off. I would have been outside my body. And I don't know how I would have coped. So now I'm building up to thinking, I wonder what day she has to go there, because she has to collect a child. So she has to wait around that area. And I'm thinking, I wonder if I could work up to her coming even once a month, coming for a cup of tea a sandwich. But even the thought of that, I'm thinking, well, what if you say to her that that's what you're going to do and you have to cancel at the last minute? What do you say to someone, how to mess around their day? So I suppose that just brings it back to this unpredictable nature and living a tailored life. Do you think there are others out there who are their symptom management is more controlled, and that's why they're able to live a fuller life? Do you think that they're experiencing the same unpredictable nature?
I have no idea, if I'm completely honest, because as you know, I don't participate in other forums. I don't talk to other people with SPS. It's been very much a lonely journey for me with this. Both people, women that I know now with SPS, you're both in Scotland. And
Scotland calling.
And you're both very different to me.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's very rare. I'm on an SPS support group or any forum or, Instagram or anything. I don't read about the disease.
No, I don't.
watch things about it. I don't research. I don't do anything. So all I have is my own experience to go on. So since you and I have been in each other's lives, sometimes I'm there with my eyebrows raised and I'm like, but how did you do that? How did you do that? Or like you have been down and out, like in a scary place. And I'm like, holy smokes, where's this all going? Is she going to be okay? We present, I think, very differently. We have similarities.
Yeah.
But we present differently. And even when my other girlie that I said is in Scotland, and she had similar treatment to me, and she's very different to me, very, very different, like totally okay with sound, for instance.
Yeah.
Me, my Lord, me and sound, good Lordy.
Yeah.
That life of silence is, it's a blessing and it's a curse all at the same time, because how do you live a fulfilled life with other human beings in it? For instance, your friend coming over for that coffee and toasty, your issue may not be sound, but for me, that sound and movement of another human being coming through the door would be enough to cause my body to go tight, stiff, and the whole shebang goes off.
Yeah.
So what are is it to do with they do have better management of SPS? I just don't know. Are their triggers different?
Yeah.
Are they? Is it to do with treatment that they have? Because as you know, I am completely like, there is nothing that goes in my body other than organic vitamins.
Yeah.
Like there is nothing in my body. And sometimes, I'd say over the last 18 months, my hubby and I, we've had the random conversations of, if I could just settle down this startle response, maybe my quality of life would be better. But because of effects that I still feel from my previous prescription routine, I don't know whether my brain or my body could tolerate another medication going in. And it was suggested last November by my neurologist, maybe now's the time to try something again. And I think because of the whole host of meds that I was on, and I was on, like a lot of different medications. I was very much in the throes of SPS, like what pretty much I would call the end stages. That's where I was before transplant. Just in my own opinion, that's where I believe and felt that I was. So the thought of starting a regime again on medication, doesn't sit well with me. I think if I can, through a tailored life of living it calmly, peacefully, with purpose, not pressure, as I say to you, with value, with a good diet as best as I can, stay and hydrate, movement where I possibly can, surrounding myself with like-minded people who are gentle and calm, understanding, upbeat and happy, positive, just really, really, really being careful about my choices of how I live my life, then, am I okay with being where I am and living my life as it is? Whereas, someone else may be in their SPS journey, okay, I mean, I've already walked the path of having all the things, taking all the things, every medical procedure, every treatment. Whereas other people with SPS, they've probably not walked that full journey yet. So they're saying, yes, all, the medication, please let me try it. The IVIG, let me try it. The plasmapheresis, let me try it. Let me try all the things, please. And maybe that is what's keeping them where they are in their SPS journey with, maybe they are exercising on a daily basis. Maybe they are still working. Maybe they are still able to run a family home. But all I know is with my experience with SPS was it came in with a bang. It was very quick the way I progressed. So I didn't have that slow integration to SPS and learning to adapt to live, alongside it. It just came in, hit me to the floor, and then it was just, all systems go from there. Whereas it's not been as long for you, has it, since life has been changing over?
The analogy that comes there is that I think you were the burst tap, I was the dripping tap, until 3 years ago, where the mains burst. It was a burst tap, and I found that incredibly difficult. The dripping tap, I think, can be just as damaging, if I'm honest, because you're still expected in the world out there to be performing. You're still expecting of yourself to be doing, as opposed to, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way or insensitive, where, it must, just that thunderclap and life comes to a halt. It must be absolutely terrifying, and you don't have time to mentally adapt. But I would say with the dripping tap, there's an element of that too, because you're push. So you're, when it comes to the kind of really florid event that finally leads to, although, do you know, Lindsay, I go off on a tangent here. I've heard of people who've came to a diagnostic place where they haven't experienced any of that, where, it has been certain symptoms and they've went and they've been diagnosed and they've continued on with working and doing A, B and C. So perhaps that might have been my journey had the medics thought, think rare. This isn't, this presentation's very strange. Think rare, rather than just thinking she's bonkers, she's off her head, or maybe I should have pushed a little further. But I was so used to just masking that I wasn't feeling great. So when it did reach that florid state of, the pipe burst, the tap burst, I was terrified. I was terrified. I was really scared. And then I picked up a little after, plasmapheresis didn't work for me, as you know, and I was on immunosuppressants, and then I had to come off them with complications. But really what happened from there was this kind of steady decline again. And that was one thing that was discussed in the consultation, was this unpredictable pattern that I present with. Where 1 minute I could be walking and the next minute I can't move, just with complete exhaustion and fatigue and, being symptomatic. Although I, as I said before, there, but for the grace of God go I, that I don't experience these seizure like muscle spasms that people are experiencing. It looks incredibly challenging and difficult to live with and painful, and to bounce back and forward from that state must be incredibly hard. But yeah, 3 years ago, I would say that I had to hit that dark spell again. And that's where you and I met, wasn't it? Because I was off the immunosuppressants and I was offered Ivig, but I was like, I just don't feel they're looking at the research. I know it works for others, but I know my body. And I just thought, am I ready to put myself through all of that? Am I ready to put my family through all of that? The answer is I simply don't know where I am with regards to the disease. I'm trying to just maintain a place of peace, love, happiness, joy, being able to be mum, wife, daughter, be able to practice my faith, trying to make dinner. But do you know what came to mind there, Lindsay, was we've spoken about this often, and I think it's the founder of the Stiff Person Research Foundation who had said, I can go for a 10K run, but ask me to make dinner and I'll go white and stiff.
Mm,
And
yeah.
I remember when I was going through that really difficult spell and I could hardly move, but Halloween came upon us and I love Halloween. And all of a sudden I'm popping Halloween decorations up. To the outside world, it looks bonkers. Well, you were in bed 10 minutes ago. You could hardly move. I don't know. I don't know. I crawled up to bed after the Halloween decorating, but in that moment I could move. I could move. I could pop. I mean, it was hard. I'm not saying that I was running around the place. I was still furniture walking, but I was doing it. So it's just this unpredictable nature of the disease where I think, again, we speak of this so frequently, is acceptance. This is where we are. We can't, there's not a sin bin, there's not a dump basket to say, right, okay.
But I think with acceptance, it comes hand in hand with, but I will continue to strive and try for a beautiful, fulfilled life where I do things, where I keep doing things, which takes me to happy heart time of our book club.
Oh, yeah.
I laughed yesterday.
Just remember,
laughed laughed.
Yeah. I'm Diane Keating. I just want that in there. Glad I beat you to that.
I know, right?
Right,
She was mine since baby boom.
No, she's always been mine.
I drove my mother simple with that film, honestly. I think it was on every day for about 6 months.
But the book club, go us.
See, this is what I think we try to say with, okay, life may have, turned on its head, but there is always another way to find enjoyment, fulfillment, a purposeful life, something that is beautiful and fun, even with the unpredictability. So our next step through all of this is our little book club with another newly found friend of ours, and we're going to do this virtually, aren't we?
Oh, yep, virtually. Yeah, that's absolutely.
The only thing is, though, we did mention, well, what if one of us is unable to, because it is at set, what did we decide on? 12:30 on a Tuesday, once a week, half an hour chat about what we've read that week. And then you start thinking, okay, but can I commit to that 12:30 on a Tuesday? And it's giving yourself permission and being in a friendship group where you're understood that, okay, it's okay that you need to bow out this week. Because, what do you do when, as I say, my lungs are tired, or there's that esophagus spasm, and you're not able to communicate, or you're not able to sit up at that particular time, that particular day, and then you never know, then on the next book club meeting, you could be there chatting your way for an hour or so.
Exactly. And you were laughing because I've signed myself up to these online like watercolor events and, these webinars, and you're like, wait a minute, what are you up to? And I'm like, I need to live.
Absolutely. I need to live. Absolutely.
I'm come out of a really difficult spell. I have been trying to exercise gently each day, trying to get out every evening, push the vestibular as well, try and keep in that state of joy, calm, and I can do going up that scale. I can. Of course you can, as long as you pay attention to the times when your body's saying, I don't think I can do that just now. Can you come and just just rest, be in the silence, be quiet, and trying to find that balance. But Lindsay, it goes back again. You could go and you could have the best night's sleep and still wake up, and half an hour after waking up, because you wake up, you like Snow White, like ha 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 ha. That's a terrible Snow White. Did you hear my vocal spasm there? And the birds are coming and they're giving you your dressing gown. I know you're like that, honestly. What world is she in? And the deer are walking in, and there we are, and and there you go. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh no, right, back to bed for you, Snow White, or find the sofa. So, there's that unpredictability, as you say, like, can I make it on a Tuesday? But I think the key there is when you find your circle, when you find like-minded people with great depth of understanding, it takes so much pressure off. And this is why I said to you, if we do it on Skype and we can record, it means that the person who cannot participate that day, and then there's the rumination of, oh, well, there you go, I couldn't do that. At least it's recorded, and you can listen to the chat of your two friends and what they've said, and you can still be party to it. You can still be involved to a degree, and adapting, acceptance. I think the other word as well is you and I, and I'm sure, and I hope other listeners are out there saying, I will never give up. I will never give up trying.
Absolutely.
I will always keep trying. Each day there is a bounty of opportunities handed to me in a plate. And like we spoke of, having a finger in all the pies, or having different hobbies, interests that we can dip into depending on where our energy is that day, where our mind is that day. Then and sometimes that is just perhaps being in a quiet state, or it could be going out for that walk, or going out in your woodland walk. It could be the book club. It could be me and all my sporadic bookings of, I think I'll go do that. I'm going to do that. Yeah, let's go for that. And we've had big conversations. I'm not going to allude to that today, but we had big conversations while I was chopping peppers yesterday.
We did
of what the plans are.
Oh, I know.
What we can do. And you're like, wait a minute, you're chopping peppers there and discussing all this. I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed. And I'm like, hey, oi, chill.
Oi.
I'm full of great plans.
I think laughter, laughter is the key with all of this. SPS is so real, and man, it is dark at times.
It is, yeah.
But when you really look at it for what it is, and you then look at your family, your friends, where life can potentially be in a positive, beautiful way. Hang on to that, really hang on to that. And if you're in a place where you're very lonely and you feel that you have no one, because I think with this disease, we can go there. Whether it be in a physical sense, there really is no one there, or in a place in your mind where you're surrounded by family and friends, but you have this label, and it is scaring the bejeebers out of you because there is no rhyme, no reason. You're struggling with the unpredictability of it. Send us a message.
Oh, definitely. Reach out.
Because I look back to where I was at a certain period in my journey, and to have had this kind of chat playing in the background, I think it would have helped, because I do wonder about our value and what we're offering, Em. But when I reflect on myself, and where I've been, it's very real and it's raw, but there is lightness, and there is love, and there is joy, and there is always another way. And I think if I had a voice saying that to me in the background, maybe my journey would have been a little bit easier. So, if you are feeling quite lost with this, or if the loneliness is taking a hold because, you don't feel understood or you don't blooming understand it yourself, just shoot us a message or, reach out to someone that you do feel understands you or is, of a like-minded state. But
I would agree. I would say amen, because I think I said to you, I don't read any articles with regards to this disease. I try to just see how it manifests in my life. I try to understand in depth of where I am in relation to how that could help others. I did say to you that at the beginning, I refused to acknowledge it. I couldn't even speak the words for nearly 2.5, 3 years. I didn't mention it to anyone. I didn't want it known. I didn't, as I say, I didn't look up. I didn't join support groups. I didn't do any of those things because I was trying to find my way and I was scared. But what I did do, I did Google for podcasts and for someone. And I know we spoke of, well, what service is this really to anyone, us two gabbing away? But I then say to you, so this is what happens after we come to a close today. Lindsay will then say, do you think that was all right? Oh no, I don't know what. And then I go, yeah, it was fine. And I give all the rationale. And then the next day I go on to Lindsay and I go, I'm having a wobble. I don't know if that was right. I think maybe you were right. And then you're like, nope, this is fine. It is what it is. Don't look back. So we're
absolutely.
we're a good pair in that sense, because we both can reach different states at different times, and therefore we're a good support to one another, and there's so much trust there to say, I know this sounds absolutely crazy, but listen, I'm really scared about this, and if I talk to you about it, actually, and then we both do it. We both actually rationalize and answer our own, while we're on the WhatsApp, and then either of us will come on and say, oh, but I'm really glad because you've came full circle and answered, you've found that space yourself. And it's amazing what that is. A healing heart. It's a healing step, to have someone there. And as Lindsay said, if you don't have someone, and loneliness can be, it's something in itself, an entirety of feeding into this disease and just feeding into a lifestyle state, being lonely. You can be lonely in a crowd, but being really isolated and alone, even in a family setting where you're like, I don't know what to do with all of these thoughts, then I genuinely mean this, and I know this beautiful woman across from me means it too. Message us or come on to Facebook if you like as well. It's it wasn't supposed to be a group. It was supposed to be a page where the podcast went up. But Muggins here, me got that all wrong. And I was like, Lindsay, I can't make this public. And your wee voice of reason is, well, just keep it a group then, it's fine, just let it go. And I'm like, okay, Lindsay, okay, I feel much better for that. But it's a small group, and it's quite happy heart, and there's depth to it in acknowledging what this disease is, but there's so much happiness and joy, and and sometimes utter nonsense from myself, actually. I questioned you. I said, what am I talking about on that Facebook page? And then I'm talking to you about it on WhatsApp, and you're like, it's fine.
It's fine. It's fine.
Are you doing that overthinking thing again? And I'm like, yeah.
I think at the moment on FB, I think there's only like 15 of us.
Yeah.
So if you want like a small, intimate setting that's just very easygoing, quite cozy, grab your cuppa. But yeah, come on there. Post away if you like. If not, then that's the best place to reach us, isn't it?
It is the best place,
and it is SPS Unscripted Podcast. That is what we are on Facebook, isn't it?
send an invite, and don't, when you send an invite to a group and then you don't hear for a wee while and you start to get a wee bit like, oh, they don't want me. Don't think that about Lindsay and I. Just know that it's Lindsay and myself. And we said that to this lady that's joined we created this book club because I said this poor soul's getting whiplash with us again because she was the first lady to join our Facebook group. And we're setting it up.
I love her. She's beautiful.
She's beautiful. But we were trying to set things up, and we were laughing because we thought this poor woman's got whiplash with us because it was a post was going up, then it was coming down, it was going back up, and then it was disappearing because of gremlins. And last night the moment of inspiration took me, and I was like, the book club, and I created that WhatsApp group, and then I jokingly said, by the way, I'm Diane Keaton, so don't nobody else has got dibs on that. And then Lindsay had to come on and she's like, oi. But that poor soul must have had whiplash between you and I, whipping back and forward with these messages. But then I think I did point in that. I think I did say to her, didn't I? Listen, if this might take 2 years to get off the ground because it's Lindsay and I. So bear with. And that's just the reality of, even with these podcasts, what does it take to actually record a podcast? It takes a full week of rest, replenishment, relaxation. A couple of days before, we are both reminding ourselves, mind the tubes, mind the balloons, the lungs and the esophageal spasms, the laryngospasm, mind the fatigue. Don't talk too much, sweetheart. Just take it easy. And it's small feeders of information of, right, okay, I've no idea what we're doing with this podcast. Are we just winging it? Are we just unscripting it? Yeah. But look, here's something, here's a picture, here's this and that. And it's small snippets of information because too much is too much overload for both of us. And often we will then put the out of office or out of hours on that page and come on to Lindsay and Em and just say, right, I can't do any more of that because it's energy zapping. Yeah. So just, if people are wondering, how the heck are you managing these podcasts then with a lot of effort?
But it is with rest. Love and compassion, isn't it? Because wanting to be of value, really wanting to serve. And that's what all of this is about. Being a safe place, a safe space, for someone.
And understanding.
Yeah, for someone, whether newly diagnosed or in the throes of SPS, or a carer, family member, a friend, somebody who's trying to understand the disease, to be a support to someone that they love, someone that they adore. So, we really are coming from a place of what would have helped us in our journey. And everything that we say, it really comes from a place of love, from wanting to be that, that understanding, that safety, and that joy too, just to bring a little bit of happiness into the SPS circle, because it becomes so scary and quite dark. And, when people are worrying and they're posting questions on support groups or, and, I've done it in the beginning stages, completely terrified. And where I was in my journey with SPS before the transplant, it was scary stuff, and spasms were being recorded and being put out there, for people to see and what have you. And it's terrifying stuff. So isn't it beautiful to have a place that, okay, we chat about the real things of SPS, the nitty-gritty stuff, but then we can turn around and go, rightio, everything is beautiful, joyful, full of love and light, and life is precious without a doubt. So let's go live it the best that we possibly can.
Yeah, and I think to take from that, Lindsay, is one of the phrases that we always say is what would we have needed? Because when we try to, when we do have the wobbles, because we do have that SPS mind, that we do have the wobbles and think, oh, is this serving? And then we think, yeah, because what would we have needed? And that's where we can rationalise together. The second point is it costs a lot for us to go into the dark in the depths of SPS. So even talking about this, when we are together, we're doing this to try and serve and to help and to create an awareness perhaps for someone. If you go to sign a form and you think, or, somebody hands you something to sign, you think, I can't do that today. And there's that moment of panic and you turn your face away quickly and the pen's out your hand. And then you think, oh my gosh, I'm absolutely nuts. What's wrong with me? No, sit with us. We've been there. So trying to say, even in those small moments, that it's okay. It's all right. We have been there and we've experienced this. But you and I, we really have, I think as well, to say the light at the end of the tunnel with this, and I don't mean with regards to SPS as a disease, I'm talking about how to live your life with this and walk beside it, is it costs us a lot physically to discuss these topics, because on Lindsay and Em chat, and Lindsay and Em as friends, it's actually all, we do have our heart to hearts, but it's actually a lot of kind of like laugh and nonsense, and there's more duality than there is actually talking about SPS. And when we talk of SPS, I still remember one of you, and I'm sorry if I'm exposing you or you feel that I'm
oh no, what did I do?
No, it was one of the days you come on after a podcast and you went, am I all right? Do I look all right? Do you remember that? And you were really questioning your wee self. And I popped back on, because you don't like to come on and look at anything.
No,
you like to just do the podcast. You leave all that nitty gritty to me. Thanks, Lindsay. Really
You're
love
welcome.
you for that. Loves and kisses. Card in the post.
Yeah, I don't ever look back. Ever. It's now become a very firm motto of mine.
Quite rightfully too.
Never look back, no matter what. If you've written something and you've put it out there, clearly at that time you felt that it would be a service. Same with the podcast, if words were spoken, clearly they were spoken from a place of love. And they were said for a reason. Leave them where they are. Don't question it. Don't overthink it. But what did I do?
No, when you put, did I look all right? I'm all right. And I just couldn't stop laughing, because it was just your wee face and just typical of Lindsay. And then I'll come on and I'm like, oh, wait, Lindsay, wait a wee minute here. Right, this is what's going on. This is not right. This is absolutely nuts and bonkers. And then you're coming on with, you're cracking me up. What are you on? And I'm like, I have no idea. What is it? What is it that I'm doing?
Have you noticed, though, where we're speaking about joy and laughter, have you noticed too much laughter can also trigger an SPS situation? Just putting that out there, guys, that is not for me, it's not just all the negative stuff, and the emotional, painful stuff that can cause issues. Literally, it's laughter and joy and that excitement. It can take me to a place to where I'm on my knees.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I've said that to you. I either flip or I flop. And the laughter for me as well, the truncal rigidity, and then my throat, and I have to do that. You hear the really loud strider, because I
get
am
it
a
in
laugher.
The side of my skull. I do really, really tight and zaps in the sides of my skull if I'm laughing too much.
Yeah, it's an excitability, and then your body takes a long time to come down from that. It's hard, isn't it? But then I'd rather laugh than cry. I'd rather laugh.
Me too.
I think my family would be like, I wish you'd stop laughing so much. I'm on my knees some days and nobody else well, you've heard me. I have to keep coming on and trying to record. And I'm like, no, I need to go. I can't speak.
We were in the Doodle Bug weekend before last, and you had a chuckle on. And have you... because he's always asking after you and how you all are. And he was like, oh, she's happy today.
She's not doomy gloomy.
you had the chuckles, and it was just beautiful. It was lovely.
The Chuckle Brothers. But yeah, I agree with you. The laughter is striking that balance again. But Missy, we're on another long podcast, you and I.
I can see my eyes. They're like, is almost like my eyes become more and more hooded, and my eyes start.
You're tired, sweetheart. You are, and I'm starting to. Yeah, somebody's got the foot pumping, and I'm like, oh,
I got my legs nearly up round my neck, so I don't flip off the chair.
Oh, please don't do that. Not on camera, anyway.
See, it's beautiful. Laugh, be joyful. All is well.
And speaking of which, before we finish, it's International Stiff Person Awareness Day.
Indeed it is.
Fly the flag. Find us, find anyone on Instagram, Facebook, whatever it is that we all can do as a community to share awareness. That this disease is real, and that everybody's experience is valid and real, and
absolutely,
it's along a very broad spectrum that can probably encompass the full world. And each of your experiences, emotions, your highs, lows, stabilities, they're all valid, they're all real. Just be you, be perfectly you, accept yourself, be gentle with yourself, as I often say. Love yourself, embrace yourself as you would someone else that was struggling today, and have a laugh. And if you really want a laugh, come on. I'm honestly not plugging this Facebook page because, it sounds as if I'm like, come on, Facebook, guys. Because it's really just Lindsay and I giving people whiplash with our chat. But come on, there are lots of happy heart moments and beautiful nature, moments of capturing nature or thoughtful moments. And don't be afraid to have your voice. If you want to remain silent, of course, but sometimes just creating that first ripple of coming out of your shell, coming out of the SPS cloud and coming into the fold of friendship or acceptance can be incredibly cathartic and helpful. But yeah, we're coming to a close today. We don't have any poems or, I know that's the Scot in me, it's poem, or anything to finish off with today, simply because we're knackered. And look, Lindsay, we've got to call a spade sometimes, and we are tired, and you probably are too from listening to us. So
yeah, if you've stuck with us this long, God bless you.
Oh, God bless you. God bless you. Thank you. Do you know what? Thank you to everyone. There's so many people around the world. See, before we go, Lindsay, can I just give a quick shout out to say to the people, I'm honestly, I'm turning into this old woman, but I'm nowhere near 50, Lindsay, in case you start bringing that up. But my kids, honestly, they say my nostrils are flaring and I'm on the phone and I'm doing all that old lady thing with my phone, but I'm only 20 in my head. So, right, here we go. Let me give a shout out to, not to say that anyone in particular is such. We have listeners from, obviously, the UK, all over the United States, amazing, Belgium, Australia, Germany, France, bonjour, Serbia, Spain, hola, Germany, Italy, ciao. I did do German at school, apologies for that. Malta, well, that's ciao because they speak Italian as well. Switzerland, we've got Turkey, Ethiopia, the Netherlands, Austria, Albania, we've got the good old Irish there as well, Serbia, Nigeria, New Zealand, good day there. I know who New Zealand is. I know it's my girl in New Zealand. I know it is. Kiss to you. And then all over the United States, that's not an exhaustive list. Thank you so much for listening. And it's amazing to look and see who's tuning into these podcasts. So thank you.
And as we can see, SPS is definitely worldwide.
Indeed, it is. Sadly, but
Well,
I'm glad that we've connected with you. And even if it is those two batty women, one with a really difficult accent and one with a lovely accent, that's Lindsay, by the way, then, thank you for tuning in. And please do get in touch. Please, give us some feedback. Are our podcasts valuable? Is there anything in particular you would like us to chat about? Would you like to come on and chat with us?
Oh my.
Would you like to come on? Or, is there anything that this is for you? It's not just for us. But I will sign off, shall we, Lindsay, with lots and lots of love.
Lots of love.
And have a wonderful week. And here's to hoping that there's continuity for another podcast next week. Fingers crossed.
Sending love and light, guys.
Love and light and lots of love. Bye for now.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. We would love to hear from you. You can find us on Facebook, SPS Unscripted Podcast. If you would prefer to DM us privately, then do so with the Facebook Messenger app. We're also over on Instagram, SPS Unscripted Podcast 1, all one word. A gentle reminder, we are not medical professionals. This content is reflective of personal journeys where we follow advice from our medical teams, and we strongly advise that you always consult your medical professional for advice.